You've clicked on a video that will explain to you when you should upgrade your camera equipment if you are a beginner filmmaker, anywhere between 16 to 25 years old, starting out content creation or filmmaking, and own somewhat of a decent beginner camera, for example, a Canon 80D, Sony a6300, and haven't invested in any sort of other camera equipment, for example, shotgun mics or lighting. Firstly, you should realize that it's very easy to get tempted to buy a new camera. You should catch yourself when you're tempted to buy a new camera. That's because we are consuming a lot of content from filmmaking channels and other YouTube content creators that promote new camera products. Once a YouTube channel hits a significant threshold in the number of subscribers, for example, 100K, 500K, they start getting paid by camera companies to promote their product. And it isn't so obvious when you watch these videos. For example, Sony pays a bunch of content creators on YouTube, and I'm sure you follow some of them. It's not subtle because all they have to say is that I use an FX3 to make my videos. And since you like their videos so much, you think that having an FX3 would solve all your problems and allow you to make videos just like them. But I don't think it's that simple at all. Camera companies survive on selling cameras to their consumers. Cameras are their highest selling product, and obviously they want to sell a lot of them. You should understand that camera companies have marketing teams dedicated to convince online consumers to purchase their new camera. If you aren't consciously aware of this, you will fall into the trap of GAS, Gear Acquisition Syndrome. And whatever video that comes out on Instagram or YouTube that suggests you to buy a new camera or piece of equipment, you will buy it. So the next time you earn some freelance money from making a video for some property agent or some gig that you got, save it. Think 3 times before you think about spending on a new camera. Because you need to understand that there are 6 key pillars to filmmaking, and only one of them is camera. You have lighting, sound, editing, story, and the most important, consistency. Yes, consistency is a value, but it is one of the key pillars that encompasses filmmaking. There's a myth that goes around the filmmaking world that camera quality or better camera equals better quality. New 6K, 12-bit recording, 18-bit recording, 16 megapixel, 12,800 ISO, whatever, all that shabazz tech specs equals better quality. I do agree with that to some extent. I myself use an FX3 for a very specific purpose, which is because my line of work involves concerts. I need 12,800 ISO. I need that tech spec. I'm going to get into that very shortly. But there's a myth that a better camera equals better quality. And that myth is propagated by camera companies because they want you to believe that so you can buy their new product. Without updating the other 5 pillars of content creation and filmmaking, lighting, sound, story, editing, and consistency, there's no point for you to upgrade your camera. A better camera does not equal better quality. Better quality comes from pushing yourself or pushing what you have to the maximum. I strongly believe that creativity breeds in its highest form when you are limited by the tools that you have. I strongly believe that the shittier your equipment and the more hungry you are to tell a story, the better your film will be. I'll tell you a story. Back in 2022, I used to shoot a certain type of content and uploaded it to TikTok. I coined it visual masturbation. It was basically me going around Singapore trying to not make it look like Singapore. So I would shoot in certain greenish, bluish colors and make my shots not look like Singapore. And my content went viral. I gained about 10,000 followers on TikTok within 3 months. I had about 1 million or so views within that same period of time. And I instantly became a viral sensation from not making Singapore look like Singapore. I would go on the streets, I would go outside with my friends, and youngsters, people around my age would stop me and say, "Hey, aren't you that film guy? Aren't you the guy that does TikToks? Aren't you the guys that make Singapore not look like Singapore?" And I'll be very honored. I was like, okay, this kind of content kind of blows. And I'll tell you something, I didn't even shoot this. I'll put an example of the kind of video I shot. I didn't even shoot this kind of video with a professional camera. I was shooting on my Sony a6500. Since you're watching this video, you would understand the tech specs of what these cameras can do. This camera only shot in 8-bit. It could do 4K, but it couldn't do 10-bit color. I couldn't push the color to the maximum that I can do now with, say, an FX3 or FX30. I could only shoot 8-bit. I could only push the color so far, and I only had a limited dynamic range. The thing is, I didn't even shoot in S-Log 2 or S-Log 3. I shot in PP2. That's like a worse version of the standard profile that the camera comes with. I didn't have any dynamic range. My highlights would clip and my shadows would be crushed. But I worked with that. I used that look to my advantage, and I pumped up the colors just a little bit. I pumped up the contrast a little bit more, and I used that dramatic look to my advantage and created some beautiful works of art that people around Singapore appreciated. But I stopped posting this content in 2023. And that was because in 2023, I bought an FX30. An FX30 is a much better camera by all regards. It has 10-bit color, can shoot much more higher frame rates. It's basically a cinema camera packed down to the size of a DSLR. But even with all these extra features and extra color depth and extra high dynamic range, extra stops of light that I could capture, I could make my night scenes look even more beautiful, I stopped posting. That was because with all the new features that this new camera gave me, I was stuck. My editing workflow had tripled in length. I was taking 3-4 times longer to edit one video that I used to be able to bash out with the Sony a6500, a budget camera. And I dropped in consistency. My upload rates went from 3 times a week to once a week, and then once every 2 weeks. And that was because the weight that I had, the weight of owning an FX3 and owning 10-bit color and owning all this high dynamic range, put pressure on my head to deliver something even more dramatic, even more better. While that is good to some extent, if it hinders my consistency, I don't want it. And that's exactly what happened to me when I thought buying a new camera would allow me to make much better content. What I failed to recognize was don't fix it if it ain't broke. So it was difficult to get my momentum back up again to produce this kind of content because I had bought a new camera. But you might argue, isn't that supposed to give you an advantage? No. There's specific times for when you should upgrade a camera in your filmmaking journey. I'm going to explain that to you right now. You should upgrade your camera when you truly feel technically limited by the equipment that you own right now. It's a very specific term. You upgrade your camera when you feel truly technically limited by your equipment. Remember how I said there are 6 pillars to filmmaking: camera, lighting, sound, story, editing, and consistency. If shooting in 4K is a true limitation for your kind of content that you make, then of course, upgrade your camera to a 4K camera. But if 1080p suffices, if 1080p solves 90% of your content problems, you should by all means not upgrade to a 4K camera. Because your time should be spent investing in the other 5 pillars of content creation and filmmaking. If you're a beginner filmmaker and own a Canon 80D or A6500, I'm pretty sure you haven't invested in lighting or sound yet. Do you own a softbox? Do you own a shotgun mic? Probably not. Invest in lighting and sound first. Minimally, when you get your first paycheck from freelance gigs, buy 3 lights: a key light, an fill light, and an accent light. A key light is a big, at least minimally 100-watt light with a big softbox. A fill light is a similar size light, maybe with a smaller wattage of 60 watts or 50 watts, that you can place on the other side of your model's face. You have one key light hitting the front, like how I have here. You have another one off to the side. I don't have one right now because I want to just get this content out. Another one on the side at the lower intensity. And lastly, an accent light. This light is usually called a rim light, and it hits from the back of the head to give the entire face an outline. If you have these 3 lights, and you've mastered the art of lighting an interview scene, if you're able to bring these lights outside, light different scenes, different venues, you have completed the lighting checkbox. There's a lot more to move from here, but that's good. You've already covered the lighting stuff. Next, sound. Invest in one shotgun mic that you can put on top of your camera and a mic setup that you can hold handheld. For example, I've got the DJI mics. They fit anywhere. They magnetically attach to my shirt, and I can walk around them and stay from my camera at a distance. These are very useful for content creation on Instagram, TikTok, whatever. Don't invest in your camera yet. Buy sound equipment, and that will heavily increase the quality of your production, because sound is 50% of a film. To improve your story, make 100 videos. To improve your editing, make 200 videos. To improve your consistency, make 200 videos within 2 years. That's 100 videos every single year. That's 2 videos a week. Do this first, achieve these check boxes, and then consider upgrading your camera equipment. I strongly believe, and this is an analogy that you can follow, the camera that you have right now should accurately represent your filmmaking level. See this in terms of levels and stairs that you are climbing. If you are level 2 right now with a Canon 80D and you want to reach a level 5 with a Sony FX3, you need to gain the strength to climb these levels. And you gain the strength by completing the other key pillars that are essential to filmmaking and content creation. You need to tackle lighting, sound, story, editing, and consistency before you hit level 5 of your camera. Once you finally hit all these stages, and once you finally reach level 5 and you've bought the Sony FX3, you rinse and repeat the cycle. When you buy a new camera, you will run into many issues. For example, learning how to color grade 10-bit color, learning how to work around the sound. Maybe you went from 16-bit sound to 24-bit sound. Maybe you're learning how to color grade in S-Log 3. Maybe you're learning to handle higher bitrate footage. You need to upgrade your storage. You can no longer use V30 cards. Now you need to use V60 and V90 cards. Your editing speed will drop because higher footage sizes will slow down your computer, and thus your consistency will drop as well. Find workarounds for each one of the other levels again once you've hit your new camera level, and then go to level 10. Solve each one of these other content pillars first, and then you have the right to upgrade your camera. So in summary, the way to look at filmmaking and content creation for your equipment is in terms of 6 content pillars, is in terms of 6 key pillars: camera, lighting, sound, story, editing, and consistency. Your camera should come last when it comes to upgrades. Hit the other 5 first, and then consider buying the new camera. I hope this video was helpful for you. Do engage, do like, share the video if it's helpful. If you find some other beginner that this video, if you have some other beginner that this video could be useful to, send this to them. Subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, superstar.